Hello, I am very excited to be talking about the Twilight Zone episode 1 of this new 2019 remake, this rebooted series, hosted and produced by Jordan Peele. So this is episode 1 called Comedian, the Comedian, and it's about Samir, a comedian down on his luck until he meets JC Wheeler, actually played by Tracy Morgan, which was pretty cool. And JC Wheeler is a legend in the comedy scene in this episode. So basically he tells Samir to make his jokes more personal and they will get laughs. And then Samir actually employs this strategy by talking about his dog, and it suddenly just disappears out of existence. Then he goes on to talk about his girlfriend's nephew, and he disappears as well. So essentially Samir has this power to basically, once he makes a joke that's personal to him, they never have existed. So then he goes and makes a list of people that have wronged him, and then he goes, one by one, talking about them, and they disappear. And then he gets into a fight with his girlfriend, and then he, stuff happens, and it gets really interesting. But I just wanted to give my thoughts about the first Twilight Zone episode in 2019. So I was expecting quite a lot. I had a high benchmark for this episode, and the episode was mostly, pretty damn good. I felt like the 60-minute, runtime was a bit jarring. I felt like it could have been 45 minutes or maybe even 35 minutes and it would have still gotten the same effect. It would have just been tighter in terms of, just the episode length. But I feel like the story was compelling and it didn't really, make any sense. But, that's just what the Twilight Zone is. It's just sort of zany sort of stories. So it didn't really need to make logical sense. As soon as Samir said a joke that was personal, the thing that was personal just ceases to exist. So I thought that was an interesting concept, but it took a while for them to actually explore the concept, and, Samir to get accustomed to it. And, I just felt like the episode could have been tighter, and, overall, I just felt the actors and the performances were really strong. Great, solid acting in The Comedian episode 1. And, actually this, The Comedian episode is actually coupled with a, the Nightmare at 30,000 feet. So that's interesting. They're, doing a double feature Twilight Zone marathon, I guess, with 2 episodes of The Comedian and obviously the remade Nightmare at 30,000 feet. So, we get a new one and a remake. So, interesting. Anyway, back to The Comedian. I did like this episode, but I thought the runtime could have been, cut down, and I felt like the ending, while good, I'm not going to go into spoilers too much, but, while it was a good ending and it was a fitting ending, it was a bit obvious, how the ending was going to go. And, it was supposed to be unexpected and, leave us, thinking that another thing was going to happen. But I don't know, I just predicted the ending in the last 10 minutes or so. But I did like how it ended. I felt like it was well done, especially the last shot, which I won't get into, but it mirrors the first shot of the episode, which I thought that was kind of cool, how it sort of, links up and, it's a mirror shot. But anyway, Samir, I like him. He's a likable character, even though he is a dick throughout because he's making people disappear to boost his, comedic following, I guess, and to boost his following and, make him a more popular comedian. But he, I get where he was coming from. He just wanted to be funny and he wanted to make a difference. And originally when he wanted to say something with his comedy and make a difference and talk about politics, it just wasn't working out. But then you have to have, some personal touch to comedy, and I thought that was quite an interesting sort of message. sort of across this Twilight Zone episode, and the metaphor is there, but I just felt like the pacing could have been improved, and that's my one big critique of this episode. It really didn't need to be 55 minutes to an hour. It just didn't. I mean, I kind of get why it was, but I believe the Nightmare at 30,000 feet, I believe that's only 30 minutes long, but anyway, that's my biggest criticism. All of the performances, and even, the soundtrack was good. I liked the score, and Jordan Peele's hosting ability and just the sound of his voice. Of course, we can never get another Rod Serling, but still, Jordan Peele does a great job hosting. He really suits the narration role, and, Samir was a likable character. The other comedians, like J.C. Wheeler, played by Tracy Morgan, and, I just like the other characters throughout. There was this female, character that was sort of ribbing Samir, and, she was great. She was very likable. She was very funny, and, she was another stand-up comic that Samir was going to the comedy club with and, performing their stand-up. And she was awesome. And, the girlfriend also of Samir was a good character also. I really liked her performance. And overall, this episode was intriguing. It did make me want to watch more of this 2019 Twilight Zone remake, but I felt like the pacing was the biggest issue. But hopefully we don't run into, those hour-long episodes again that, really don't need to be an hour long. But I thought the premise was interesting. The ending was a little too obvious. But overall, good performances, good cinematography, good editing. Everything else was good. The writing, every character was kind of interesting in their own way. Even, the kid character, had a good, couple of laughs here and there. He had a good, couple of funny lines. And overall, interesting premise. I liked this episode of The Twilight Zone, and I'm looking forward to seeing episode 2, which is a remake or reimagining of a famous Twilight Zone episode, which I'm looking forward to seeing that. But this sort of original episode, The Comedian, it was good. There's a couple of issues. It's not perfect by any means, but Jordan Peele's narration, the cinematography, the funny performances, Samir's character and how he goes through a character arc from, wanting to make a difference and wanting to help people with his, comedy to, being then, making people disappear. And then, in the ending, I don't want to spoil anything, but he kind of keeps to his morals and he does end up being a good person at the end, but I won't get into that. And I thought the ending, while good, was predictable, as I said. So overall, I don't really want to give out a rating, but if I had to, I would give this a solid 7 out of 10. It wasn't anything mind-blowing, but it was well done, and even though some stuff was a bit predictable, like the ending, the premise was strong, and I just felt that the premise took a while to set up. I thought it took a little too long, but once the episode started going and actually rolling, it was really, really enjoyable throughout, and it got me hooked. So, and it also got me to see, want to see more of the Twilight Zone 2019 series. And I hope it does for you too. I hope you guys check out The Comedian, episode 1 of the Twilight Zone remake by Jordan Peele. And I want you guys to let me know, basically your thoughts regarding The Comedian, episode 1 of the Twilight Zone. Did you like it? Did you think it was a little slow? I thought it was a little slow to keep going, to get going at first. But once it sort of got to I want to say the 30-minute mark, I was hooked. It was just an interesting concept, a comedian basically, wanting to make the world a better place, starts making people disappear and not existing at all. And the way that they, sort of incorporate that with the visuals and sort of make events not happen because certain people don't exist, I thought that was just a cool concept and a cool sort of touch to the episode. For instance, the girlfriend character of Samir, she is working not as a lawyer, but as, in a restaurant. And also, the girlfriend's nephew, once he sort of gets disappeared, once he becomes, basically non-existent, she then goes and says, my sister can't have kids. Like, what are you talking about? Don't joke about that, Samir. So the course of history changes because of Samir's jokes and what personal touches he makes. I just thought it was interesting, but besides the few issues I've had, with episode 1 of the Twilight Zone remake, I do recommend it. 7 out of 10 overall. And that's going to do it for me. So if you want more Twilight Zone videos, please make sure to rate, comment, and subscribe. And I'll talk to you guys next time. Bye.